All right, we're gonna talk about acceleration and specifically starting drills. Because if I'm on the runway, I have to start moving, right? And I'm gonna gradually build up speed on my approach and then eventually get to the point where I jump. But at some point I'm standing here, right? And I've gotta overcome inertia and start building up that speed. And that's acceleration. So before I talk about specific drills that we can use, first, I'm gonna give a big picture about acceleration. All right, so I'm here at the runway and I'm just gonna stand here with my left foot forward, okay? Now, if I wanted to move forward, if I keep my body upright and start running, I'm going to start pulling my legs. So watch, if I'm upright, that's really hard for me to run, right? What I need to do is I need to have a forward lean so that I can create a pushing motion. So I'm here, and imagine when I have a forward lean, I'm pushing out, I'm driving forward. I'm gonna push the ground down and behind me to propel my body forward. So if I come down here and push, I'm gonna push under me and back, and I'm gonna try to push the ground behind me, which is gonna push my body forward. Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So I push into the ground's gonna push back into me. Now, if I push into the ground and I land my foot out here in front of me and then try to pull it under me and then push, first off, taking way too much time. Second, I'm gonna land flat-footed out here in front of me. Then I'm gonna have to use my hamstring to pull my body under me, and then I'm gonna have to push. That's too much time, it's using too many muscles, and it's inefficient. What I wanna do is I want to have that foot, I'm gonna push off, I'm gonna bring this leg up, but I'm not gonna pull it way up here. I'm gonna pull it low, up in front of me, and I'm gonna keep this what's called dorsiflex. So toes up, dorsiflex, toes down, plantar flex. Think of it like this. I'm gonna plantar flex, I'm stepping on some plants, okay? Oh, I want dorsiflex. So as I drive out, I want those toes up, that foot up at this 90 degrees. Okay, so I'm gonna drive forward, and as I come down, I'm not just gonna put my foot down here, I'm gonna push it down and back, right? Because I'm trying to land and push myself forward. But here's a trick, or here's a problem. So if I come forward and I hit under me, perfect spot, but then I collapse, well, you see here, this I want to stay at 90 degrees, right? I want to have a lot of elastic energy here stored up so it lands and just pushes me forward. But if I land here and I collapse, if this gets down to flat, see that? So the angle between my foot and my shin, if it bends down here, then I'm basically losing my elastic energy, okay? So now I'm flat-footed, I gotta spend more time on the ground, so I gotta land, bend, and then try to push off. That's too much time. So what do we want to do instead? We want to lock this foot at 90 degrees. I'm going to think about really using this front portion of my legs to really lock it out so that I can land here at 90, boom, and then immediately just push off. So let me show you first landing flat-footed. Notice how I landed flat-footed, and that angle between my foot and my shin was real small, okay? And then it's really hard for me to really get off the ground quick. I want to land on the ground and then pull that ground behind me, but then use all this elastic energy that's stored up, boom, to rocket me forward. So now I'll do it again, but I'll just allow this to stay at 90. So I'm just gonna sit here, I'm gonna lock my foot, do a little circles just to lock it. Okay, I feel good that I'm locked. So now I'm here and I'm gonna push out and I'll push, but I'm not gonna let my heels touch the ground. But I'm still gonna remain in a dorsiflex position. Here, and now all right, well that's a little bit better. But here's some other things we need to think about or consider. So when I'm out here, I want these low heel recovery and long ranges of movement. So if I like to use the expression of taking a sledgehammer and I go to my favorite carnival or fair and I got that 6 sledgehammer and I want to ding that bell, you know, the thing that goes up and it dings the bell and you win a big stuffed animal teddy bear. I want to take that sledgehammer, swing it around and ding that bell, right? Well, if I take a small little hammer to that carnival and I just go, I can move it really, really quick, right? But it's small, it's light, doesn't have a lot of mass. I can move it fast, but it doesn't really have enough time because it has less mass to ding that bell, right? But if I take that big old sledgehammer and I swing it way around, it's gonna start off going really slow, but it's gonna have a lot more time to build up a lot more speed and a lot more force, so that when you make contact with that anvil, it's gonna go ding, ding, ding. You're gonna win the stuffed animal. It's gonna be awesome. Same thing here, right? So I'm gonna push out. If I come up here and move it up, it's gonna move really quickly, but then I gotta step down and I'm kind of stepping out of position. What I want is to keep it low heel, and then I can get it on the ground in an optimal position. First off, if I go all the way up here and down, that's actually gonna take a little bit longer than if I just got here, kept it low to the ground, and strike back. And that's why actually, if you look at some athletes that are typical like starters, right? Christian Coleman's a great example. If you watch him start, he actually drags his toe. So he's keeping it as low as possible to the ground because he wants to get down and onto the ground as quick as possible, at the same time having those long levers that can really exert a lot of force over a longer period of time. But if you look at Carl Lewis, when he started, he's a great example if he would have this high carry and step down. Now, one isn't technically better than the other. It's a little bit more of a stylistic component, but if we follow proper biomechanics, the low heel recovery would be the optimal choice for a start. So when I want not just low heel with my legs, but I also want big levers with my arms. So I want big arms also when I'm driving out. So here I'm gonna push out, and I'm gonna first do something wrong, because this is another common thing I see with a lot of young athletes. You ready for this? I'm going to take little bitty steps when I push out. I'm gonna try to get my feet going as fast as possible. So I'm here, and now all of a sudden I'm gonna go. Okay, athletes, they wanna run super fast, but they start off trying to get these steps way too quick. We wanna say, hold up. Instead of doing really fast movements, why don't we do big, powerful movements that allow our muscles to really utilize all those big strength, right? Because think about it, if you ever gone into a squat, you're going to do a squat, if you put a ton of weight on there, like your max PR, right? You go down, you're gonna go slowly up, but you got a lot more weight, right? You can't move that weight very, very fast, but you can move a lot more of it, right? If you have a little bitty lightweight, right? You can move that weight really, really, really fast. Well, that's kind of what we want. We want our muscles to think about pushing the ground behind us like it's a max PR squat, right? So we're trying to push the ground heavy. It's just gonna be a little bit slower because it's as much as we can possibly push. When we get upright, in that upright sprinting, well then it's kind of like a low weight, but we're moving it as fast as possible. So instead of a big push, now it's more in a vertical component, and we're just trying to push on that ground as quick as possible with as much force as we possibly can handle, but it's clearly not the same amount of exertion as when you're driving. So now I'm gonna redo this, and instead I'm gonna push out with big ranges of motion, keeping my foot at about 90 degrees, locking into the ground, pushing down and behind me, not stepping out in front of me, okay? So here I am. Now I'm gonna take big ranges of motion, really pushing, keeping my heels or my ankles locked. Ready? All right. So I think I was able to push out a lot faster on that one. And I felt faster too. I had a forward lean, but I think for me, that might've been like I was leaning a little bit too much and my head was in a little forward position. So if you watch that back, what I did is I pushed out, but I had my head pushed down like this, and I was really leaning, and I kind of had an arch on my back. So what can I do better? Well, remember, we want a straight line from there up through my torso and up through my neck. So if I tuck my chin in a little bit and allow my body to get in a little bit better position, not really overdoing the lean where I have to almost land under me, if I can land a little bit more behind me, then hey, this might actually work a little bit better. But now I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna try to tuck my chin in, big arms, and not so deep of a lean. Oh yeah, that felt way better. I was able to really drive out, get a lot more speed on that one, a lot of power. All right, so now I want to work on general acceleration, specifically the start. Because the start's super important, because remember this, as jumpers go, we want to be as accurate as possible on the takeoff board, because if I step over that line, it's a scratch and it doesn't count. And I want to make sure that I always get a good jump, because I could break the world record, but if I scratch, it doesn't count. So I need to make sure I'm consistently accurate at the takeoff board. Well, how can I do that? Well, if I can make sure I push out the same way every time when I start, then I'll be more likely to be accurate there. If I can be consistent here, I can be consistently accurate there. So what can I do? What are some drills I can do to work on having the same amount of push out here? So here are some starting drills we can do to work on acceleration.